Good morning. We're live. So it's back to school season, and if I know anything about Black women, I know that some of y'all are thinking about back to school for your own self. There is something you don't know that you're going to know by the end of this call that is probably going to change the trajectory of your life if you're one of those back to school Black women, okay? Or if you have some youth, some young people, or some back to school Black women in your lives. This conversation today is going to be really eye-opening, and I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying life-changing. So welcome. My name is Stephanie Perry. I'm a house sitter. I'm the creator of House Sitter School, co-creator of Exodus Summit. Right now I'm in my apartment in Bogota, Colombia, and I invite you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you're here, you might as well subscribe. Thank you. Turn on notifications, ring the notification bell. You'll be notified when I post a new video or when I go live with a special guest like today. Today, I have a super special guest who is a repeat guest. My guest today was a guest on my channel, one of my first, I don't know, I think it was 5 years ago.
5 years, yeah.
She's here to update us on her, but more importantly, to give you the 411, give you some good information that's going to change your life. If you're thinking about going back to school, you're in the right place. Welcome, Briana.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. The reason why I know it was 5 years is because I was in the US about to leave for Prague. So I was beginning my PhD program. And so this is a full circle moment because I'll be defending my dissertation on the 16th of this month. So it's been 5 years. So yep, wrapping up.
Aren't you making such amazing progress? Let's get a little closer to you. Aren't you making good progress? That's awesome.
Thank you.
Wow. Okay. So you're in Prague, which is in the Czech. So we don't call it the Czech Republic anymore. We call it Czech.
Yeah. Well, so it's kind of the equivalent of like Czech Republic is like United States or United States of America. Czechia is like US or something. Like, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you're in Prague. You've done some things that a lot of women in this community are interested in, but you've done it in a completely different way. Briana's going to take over and teach you some things. Okay, she's going to take over and teach you what she came to teach you. But can I first ask you how did you know that going to school in Europe was a thing and that it was possible and that like you could do it in English, and like how were you introduced to this in the first place?
So I first did a master's program in Europe. I was fortunate enough to study abroad during my undergrad, really loved it. And so when I was wrapping up my bachelor's, I was like, well, it would be great to get back there. And I applied to multiple and got accepted into a few master's programs with scholarships. I ended up choosing one that was a joint master's degree. So it was 6 universities working together to provide this master's program together for us. So we moved around during the program. And so it was in English because that one was, multiple countries working together. But yeah, I was just open to it, right? I was just kind of looking. I didn't necessarily know what I was looking for. The program that I ended up doing for my master's, it's a field that I didn't even know existed. And now I'm about to have a doctorate in this field, right? So my master's program was called a Master of Arts in Sports Ethics and Integrity. So kind of like anti-doping, anti-match fixing. I had done some sports stuff during my undergrad. I went to an SEC school. So I did some stuff with some of our athletic programs. But yeah, this was a side of sport that it had never really dawned on me that it was even an option. So I really just want people to understand, like, you may not even really know what you're looking for or what you can find, what's out there, but just give it a chance. Just take a look and see what might be out there.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm glad to hear that study abroad is a thing that introduced you to this. That's something that a lot of us have had some experience. A lot of people in the community have had some experience with study abroad. Introduced you to the idea of going to school abroad. Okay. All right. Fantastic. Listen, y'all, I'm not ignoring you. Good morning, everyone. Please say good morning in the chat. And yes, Erasmus Mundus. We talked about Erasmus last time Briana was here. So yes, it was Erasmus Mundus was the program, but she's going to give you a lot of information. I'm going to get out of the way, but I would like, before I get out of the way, I would like for all of you to say good morning. And then also share, hit the share button. If you have someone in your life who you think would be interested in hearing about a bachelor's, a master's, a doctorate abroad, um, go ahead and hit the share button, because the information that Briana is going to give you is going to be really surprising about how accessible these programs are, about how accessible, right? And how much better your life can be as a student in Europe compared to being a student in the United States. I'm going to get out of the way, okay? But don't stop saying good morning, and don't stop hitting the share button. Hit the like button while you're at it. And Briana, you're in charge, okay?
Right. Thank you. So good morning, y'all. A Broad-Minded You is kind of the platform that I'm trying to build. Like I said, I'm wrapping up my doctoral program. So I'll be putting, a bit more effort toward this, but there is already some stuff on my website. I have like links to my Substack and some data visualization stuff that you can find over there. So if you're interested, please go ahead and check that out. A little bit about me. So I mentioned I finished up my BA in 2017, and then I went straight into a master's in Europe. So I lived for that program, I lived in Wales, Belgium, Germany, and Greece. It was Brexit, before the UK Brexited. So we lived in Wales. Now Wales is no longer part of the program anymore. But and then Prague and Spain are also a part of, or the Czech Republic and Spain are also a part of this scheme, that particular program. But if this type of thing sounds interested to you, Erasmus Mundus is the graduate scheme. Erasmus, some people might be aware of, is an undergraduate program for European students. Erasmus Mundus is actually aimed at non-European students. So, a lot of people are thinking Erasmus isn't for us as Americans, assuming this is a mostly American audience. But you can absolutely check out those options. I don't think Americans take advantage enough. There, a lot of the students are from Mexico, China, India, but it's an option for us as well. So please go ahead and check out the Erasmus Mundus Joint Master's Degree Catalog, or EMJMD catalog, if that sounds interesting to you. A lot of the programs are quite niche. Like I said, mine was sports ethics and integrity, but they have lots of stuff on there. So yeah, give it a shot. And then I came back to the US after that, worked for a nonprofit that focused on youth football for a year. And that was enough of being in the US for me. And I ended up getting the opportunity to pursue the PhD program. So I moved to Prague in the Czech Republic in 2020. So during the pandemic, right? Life happens and you get opportunities and you just got to go with it. My office at the time went fully remote during that period. So I had the option to keep working while I started the PhD program. So it just worked out for me. So like I said earlier, I'm expected to finish up later this month. So as far as what I want to talk to you all about, I just want to get us in the habit of asking the right questions, right? So really what I think everyone should start with is, what are your priorities? Sorry if you can hear this bag. My cat likes paper and bags and stuff. So what are your priorities? So is your interest just obtaining a degree to minimize debt? Are you interested, now with some of the new policy changes from the new administration, are you looking to get a degree while also putting your loans in deferment? Are you interested in long-term relocation, right? So for all of these, your strategy might be a little bit different. So as far as minimizing debt. To be quite honest, most of the programs, particularly like in Europe or Asia or South America, are going to be much more affordable than you'll find in the US. Once we get to some of the Anglophone or English speaking countries like Australia, Canada, the UK, the price does start to get up there. It may not necessarily be economical. I get that a lot of people will find comfort from being in like an English speaking place and not necessarily having that as an obstacle to overcome. But this is about getting out of our comfort zones, and there are options, particularly at the master's level, in non-English speaking countries. Like there are many more master's programs for sure in English than bachelor's programs. But for those of you who don't have a bachelor's or are looking to pivot in terms of career and field and are interested in doing another bachelor's, there are some in English as well. So yeah, we're going to talk about all of this today. So if you're interested in putting your loans in deferment, there is, I'll talk about this a little bit later as well. And I sent Stephanie some links. But there is a federal student aid list that you can use. You can use loans. So federal student aid loans as of now, September 2025, you can use federal student aid loans at those universities. So those are marked as eligible. And then you have others that are marked as deferment only. And if you attend those schools, you can't necessarily you can't put loans toward attending school, but your loans will be in deferment if you already have loans. So yeah, so that is a list on the Student Gov Aid site. I did send Stephanie that list, so hopefully she can post it as a comment or something. And then as far as like long-term relocation, so obviously we would also want to keep the cost down, right? We never want to get in too much debt because you don't need to in order to get like a good quality education. You really don't. But then you're also going to want to be thinking about like, okay, what are the permanent residence requirements and citizenship requirements if that's something that you're eventually interested in. So you'll also want to consider like, okay, how easy is the language to learn and what level do I have to achieve? Because typically for a permanent residency test, you're going to need to take, there will be a language component to that. And then there's also the residency requirement. And if you're wanting to kind of jumpstart long-term relocation with study, I want you to understand that student years are not always counted as whole years, right? So this can be tricky. It is really, their technical line is all of these countries is going to be that like every person is kind of an individual basis that they're judging your application on. But generally speaking, if you're at the bachelor's or master's level, that year is going to count as half, or it may not even count at all. There are a couple countries that will count it as a whole year, but countries often want to see that you have made like some investment into the community or into the country or whatever. So you having a work permit, like you're paying, if you have a work permit and you're working there, you're paying taxes into the system. So to them, that is giving them an inclination that you're truly like integrating and that you have like long-term plans and all of that, right? So as far as the bachelor's and master's programs, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the bachelor's, but typically in Europe, most of them are 3 years as opposed to 4. So already we're going to be saving money there. And as I just mentioned, there are limited English taught programs, but the options do expand if you're willing to consider English plus Spanish or English plus German or something like that, right? So for some people, you may want to consider taking some type of, intensive, maybe you took Spanish or French or something in middle school, high school, and you're a bit rusty, but maybe if you're there for a little bit, it might come back to you. You never know, right? So that's also something that I don't want people to put off. You do have some countries that have education that is, almost free. In the case of a country like Germany, where you're only paying like the administrative fees. Again, at the bachelor's level, there may not necessarily be as many English only programs, but Germany is definitely something that I want you all to take a look at. A lot of public Italian universities have a sliding scale, so it's income-based tuition, and that does apply to foreigners as well. So that's also a way to like keep those tuition fees down. And the other thing that I want to focus on for bachelor's degrees are the proof of funds aspect. So while Germany is a good option for having, you know, little to no fees, they do have quite a high threshold, a high standard for the proof of funds. And I say that it's a high standard because they require like a blocked account. Now, some of this might change a little bit depending on whether or not you're a traditional student or a mature student. A traditional student would probably be between the ages of like 18 to 24, 18 to 26. And then after that, you would be considered like a mature student. It might go up, right? The older that you are. But a blocked account for Germany means that they want these funds like staying in an account that the school controls or that a German bank controls. For some other countries that have a higher amount, you might be able to get away with some of your, you know, if your family can like loan you something for a little bit while you apply for the visa type of thing, and then you give that back to them. And then if you're working part-time to support yourself, whether that's, you know, online or you get a job at Starbucks or whatever, when you move to Germany or wherever, you do have the option to work while you're a student, but that blocked account makes it quite difficult, right? So I believe Germany and Belgium have that blocked account. So that is something to think about, that you might need to save up a little bit if you want to go to one of those countries. Otherwise, you can get away with it. It's more flexible. Some countries will require very little, like the Czech Republic requires, I believe it would be for a year. It's about like 6,000 $6,000 ish for the year, for a school year. So yeah, every country is going to be different because obviously the cost of living differs, right? But that's definitely something that you want to, consider. One way to get around this is if you are using like FSA, a federal student aid loan. That loan will be enough for, you know, the kind of like counselor or person who's kind of responsible from the finance office for foreigners will give you a letter that you can bring to your application, your visa application appointment, that will tell them like, okay, this student is like covered financially or something like that. And then obviously a scholarship as well. So if you get some type of scholarship, if you are a traditional student, there's also an option, I think, to have like a sponsor. So if your parents will agree to like support you. So it's one of those things where you're really just going to have to look at your particular circumstances. And it's just about if the country is kind of comfortable with what you're presenting, right? Like, okay, yeah, we think that this person's not going to be like homeless on the street is kind of what they're looking for there.
I want to jump in, Briana. I
Yes.
want to just jump in. So you're saying that, just for clarification, you're saying that, for example, if we're going to Prague or to the Czech Republic to get a bachelor's degree, we're talking about a 3-year program, and they want to see proof of funds of $6,000 for the year. So they want
Yes.
to see whether that is money that we have in our account or our student aid, our federal student aid from the United States. That
Yes.
also qualifies towards that proof of funds.
Yes. Yeah.
And that $6,000 will cover our tuition for the year.
It won't cover your tuition. So
Okay.
the Czech Republic has quite low tuition fees. So most of the programs are going to be, most of like these English taught programs that I'm talking about are going to be between like, let's say like 1,800 euros and 3,000 euros, which is probably like, I don't know, $2,100 and $3,500 or something like that, right? So there will be that, though each university will have their own rules as far as like how that's due. Some universities, like with American universities, are fine with installments. Some want the first semester up front, some want the whole year up front. So you will have to kind of yeah, whether that's it, and you might be able to negotiate, right? Like it's just going to be like what they're comfortable with. Because generally speaking, like education here is so 1,800 to 3,000 for the year. Um Education in Czechia, generally speaking, is like subsidized. If you study in Czech, even as a foreigner, it's free here. Like, so it's not, so that's the thing. It's not quite like the business situation that it is in the US. So I'm not saying that they're gonna like let you off the hook with these fees, right? But it may not necessarily be like as strict. But yeah, so we're talking like relatively low fees, and the cost of living, it just has to do with however long the visa is. So yeah, like if you only want to stay like for, I guess you could ask for your visa to only be like for the school year, so 10 months or 9 months, and then it would be like a little bit less. But yeah, so that's just how it is here. And I'm saying like we're estimating like $6,000. It might actually be a little bit less here, because yeah, the cost of living is quite manageable. So it's going to be different for every country though. But yeah, the proof of funds is definitely something that I want people to be aware of, because that's not going to be necessarily in the process of looking at schools, right? Because this is the visa process that I'm talking about with the proof of funds. So that's for when you're trying to
Okay.
like get country for them to allow you to live there. It's not necessarily like you applying to the school and getting accepted is one thing, and then you applying for the
Okay.
visa to get into the country is another thing.
Okay. Okay. I wasn't clear on that. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Mhm.
So this proof of funds that we need to have is to get the visa. This like it's the student visa for almost everyone, right? To get the student visa,
Yes,
and
yeah.
that month. But I just want to be. You said that our federal, if we have federal aid in the United States, you've given me a list of places where that can be used around the world. And
Mhm.
so this federal aid counts towards that proof of funds. And that's what I'm
Mhm.
understanding, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So there
All right.
is
So sorry, I'm going to disappear from the screen again because I'm going to be putting things in the description that Brianna sent me. Okay. So that
okay.
y'all don't have to be like, where's the link? What's the link? Okay. I'll be doing that.
No, thank you for that though. Yeah, so it's good to like clarify that. There is a university here, Masaryk University, so it's in the town of Brno, that is on that list. So those programs, yeah, at the master's level, so we're talking, yeah, between like 2,000 euros and 3,000 euros. They have some at the bachelor's level that are a little less, I believe. But yeah, so those, I mean, yeah, if you wanted to, which obviously not everyone, some people might be against loans at all, because I suppose that some people could, work a summer, go, waitress or something, and kind of be ready to pay that, right? Because it is so affordable. So that is going to be an option. But if you do need loans, there is that list for you to choose from there. Um, so I do want to say that I think that most people who are interested in going to school or going back to school should consider options abroad, whether that's like Europe or somewhere else. But it's not necessarily a good option for everyone. And I'm specifically thinking about people who want to be like medical practitioners, or if you want to work like in the US legal system. I think that you should really do your research there. I'm sure that there is a path, and there are medical schools that are on that federal student aid list. And I have met some individuals here that go to the medical school here at Charles University in Prague. But I'm just not familiar with like what exactly that process is and how easy it would be to then move back to the US. I am bringing that up though, because the administration recently made some changes that will make it difficult for people who want to particularly like be a doctor or be a lawyer, who need loans, who don't have the money to just pay that out of pocket in the US. they have put some caps on the graduate loans that you can take out that will make it very hard for some people to achieve that if that's what they want. So I am bringing it up to say that, like, you may not be the best candidate for studying abroad, but if you really want to consider it, there probably is a pathway, but that's something that you will really have to like look up the details and understand. I would be reaching out to people on like LinkedIn to see, you know, how easy or hard was it? What's the process like for that type of thing? The other considerations, I think, for both master's and bachelor's programs are like the ranking of the institution. Again, I think this is more important for people who do plan on going back to the US, just kind of understanding the reputation and how well the school is regarded. So there are a few lists, like, you know, US News World Ranking or whatever has international schools on that. Times Higher Education has a list. So there are a few, you know, different resources that you can check for those types of things. And then accreditation. So anything that is on, you know, those lists as far as ranking is concerned, you probably don't have to worry about accreditation, but it is something to consider. So, and there are all types of bodies that do accreditation, because you can look at the individual country, you can look at the region. So like Europe will have like its own accreditation bodies, and then also the field. So there's like surely some type of engineering body that does accreditation, you know, like these types of things. So you just kind of want to make sure that, like, you know, it's legit, and that, you know, whatever the industry kind of standard is, that they're meeting it. So that's just something that, it's not the first thing that I would look at, but I wouldn't make a decision on a school without kind of understanding that, like, oh yeah, it's accredited by like a few bodies, or like this program is accredited by a few bodies. As far as searching for programs, so bachelor's portal, master's portal, and then that Erasmus Mundus joint master's degree catalog that I mentioned. And I would also direct you all to a Substack post of mine from April, I believe. And in that, I have the list of sites for different countries, mostly in Europe and Asia, that you can refer to. That's like the official country English taught program list. So as a general rule, the more official kind of sites abroad are going to be like, for instance, Austria is going to be like .at. If there's something that's like .com, it's probably like less official, but like these kind of like government approved or government run websites will be like, yeah, like .at for Austria, .de for Germany, which is, yeah, Deutsch. So yeah, so I have that list. I have, yeah, many countries on a list. In addition to these bachelor's portal, master's portal, I think they're a good place to start, but I would consider other resources and lists as well. As far as doctoral programs are concerned, generally speaking, you will need to have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree to be accepted into a doctoral program. Not always, though, particularly if you have like extensive experience in your field, you might not need like a master's degree as well. It's just kind of, I guess, whether or not that university is willing to take you on, or that professor wants to work with you, or whatever, right? But so here are a few things to think about with this. So I would say be patient, make sure the opportunity is right for you. Because this is something that you're going to be working on for a long time. It might be, you know, the most extensive thing that you ever work on. And you want to stay invested in it, right? You don't want to drop out because you just like weren't that interested to begin with. You just kind of chose it because it was an opportunity. Yeah, because there is a difference between finding a PhD program that's kind of like a posting, right? So there are these kind of specific stipulations. For instance, if a professor's gotten a grant or something to study this, or it's just their particular interest, and they have a posting for that, those I would be like careful with, right? Unless it really, really aligns with what your interest is. So you'll find some of those types of degree programs though on Euraxis in Europe. So that is a search engine. So that's the link address for that. And then you can also try direct outreach. So some countries and universities will have just like under a professor's profile, whether or not they're accepting doctoral candidates. You can always reach out. These are, like public officials. So their contact information should be on the, or I guess public employees, excuse me, their contact information should be on the website. So yeah, if someone is, researching something that you think is really interested in, or you were on Google Scholar and you did a search and you saw that Professor X has all these articles that are related to it, and you think that, yeah, you'd like to like learn from them and work with them, like, don't hesitate to reach out. There are a lot of European universities who see what's happening in the US as far as like funding cuts as an opportunity. So I think that there will be, upcoming opportunities as far as European universities in particular being eager to see what American students are looking to make a move over there. The last thing that I want to mention as far as the doctoral programs are concerned is that you should know your resident status. So understand whether or not you are a student or an employee. As I think that I mentioned it earlier, the students on a visa might only be counted, half, sometimes not counted at all towards permanent residency if that's something that you're interested in. So it's definitely something that you should be aware of, right? So yeah, and it's just going to be, it might even be like university by university as far as whether or not a doctoral student or a doctoral candidate is considered like an employee of the university or is a student. So that's just something that I would double check on as well. Okay, so then on the know your status point. So yeah, so France and Portugal, this is not an extensive list by any means, but yeah, France and Portugal do count student years toward permanent residency. Most European countries count it as half, and then some countries don't count it at all. So yeah, I have here as example Sweden and Ireland. So yeah, so just something to definitely check on if that is something that is important to you as far as like making a long-term move abroad. Okay, on the language point, because again, I think those are probably like the two biggest hurdles. So the as far as permanent residency is required, the actual like length of time that you're there, but also the language, right? So this is from the US Department of State's Foreign Service Institute, and most of these languages that are like the easiest, so they have 4 categories. So they have like this, is the easiest technically, and then they have like an intermediate category, they have a hard category, and then they have a super hard category. So that's something that I think is something to consider as well. These are basically like Germanic and Romance languages minus German, which is actually like on the intermediate level, I suspect, because I guess the grammar is a bit more complex. But in theory, these are the easiest languages for native English speakers to learn. The hardest are going to be like Chinese, Japanese, Arabic, Korean. Like those are the hardest. These are going to be the easiest. So, again, if that long-term relocation is something that you want to think about, please understand that like the farther down you're getting on that list, as far as, from easy to super hard, the more invested you need to be in like working to understand the language. Again, for those of us who took Spanish or French in school, you might be surprised with like how it comes back to you, or how easy you're able to kind of pick it up once you're immersed in that area. And also like where you're studying will have an effect on that as well. So for instance, like I live in Prague, I would know more Czech if I lived in a different city. Like if I lived in, if I went to a university that was in a smaller city. Prague is the capital though. So, and Czech is like the hard, is on the hard tier in this list. So this like Slavic languages are going to be on that hard tier. So yeah, and it is not easy. I know people here who, because you're eligible after 5 years of living in the Czech Republic, and I know people who have been here for like 8, and they are, you know, in classes like 5 hours a week trying to like do what they need to do to get to just, and it's just A2. It's really not, you don't need to be fluent or anything, but it is not an easy language. So that's, you know, something that I also want us to focus on, because you really need to be like actively working toward that if you know, the more difficult the language is. And I would say also maybe the older that you are, because the younger that you are, the easier it is going to be to pick up another language. So just know that it might be something that you are actively having to like get out there and try and meet people, or maybe pay people to like speak with you or something like that. Okay, something else that I want to mention is just kind of the state of things in the world, right? The patterns that are happening in the US are not just affecting the US. Like these things are happening in other places as well. And I do think that it's important to acknowledge that some countries, you know, the citizens of some countries are taking it out on, you know, immigrants, including students and whatnot, their frustrations with their systems and whatnot. So for instance, like Canada, which has been a country that historically has taken a lot of foreign students, they are reducing their like the amount of international student permits that they're going to dole out. This is still a lot, right? Because it says like, so they'll issue 437,000. That's still a lot of student visas, but it is, according to this article, a 10% reduction. And I believe like they're eventually trying to go down like from their highest amount. I think they're trying to get down like 35% from like their highest amount or something like that, which is a substantial drop. And that has to do with like this head, or this, you know, the little bit of body that I have on here. So yeah, as the government continues to try to ease pressure on housing, healthcare, and other services. So housing is a big one as to why this stuff is happening. So, you know, just have an understanding of like what the kind of political outlook is in any country that you're considering, I think is important. Australia is going through something similar. So, and Australia also is, you know, I would say using various tactics, like they have the highest student visa cost. I believe it's 2,000 Australian dollars. I don't know exactly how much that is in US dollars, but it's not, I mean, it's still high, right? Like, you know, even considering the difference in currency, that's still a very high amount for a student visa. So in addition to them now having the highest student visa application costs, they also have they are playing around with their cap. And then this also says, so the headline here says Australia lifts foreign student cap by 9%, prioritizes Southeast Asian applicants. So they are raising it more than they had initially wanted to. This was something that was quite a large conversation when they had their elections, I believe, at the end of last year. And really both of their like main parties were talking about having less students in. Again, this has a lot to do with housing costs and just like other frustrations that are going on within those within the countries, again, similar to what's happening in the US. But yeah, again, this is just something that I want us to be aware of. Now, this is tricky. These countries are playing a tricky game because a lot of schools, a lot of universities make money from foreign students. Like I said, the Czech Republic costs nothing for these Czech students to study if they're studying in Czech. So they do make at least a little bit of money from foreign students coming. In the case of Australia, they make a lot of money. Like Australia and Canada, they make a lot of money. So they're definitely like playing a dangerous game here. I suppose that's why Australia had to raise their cap more than they initially wanted to, because I think they realized that like actually we do need these students to come in order for these universities to be sustainable. But yeah, it's just something that I think everyone should kind of have on their mind. Again, when we're talking about like political outlook, so earlier this year, Hungary passed an anti-LGBTQ plus law. So they basically didn't want to have any pride events. So it was, illegal for like queer people to gather in public, essentially is what this law says. I believe it's punishable by fine. Still it speaks to the state of things in Hungary, right? So I want everyone to be thinking about their particular situation, think about what's safe for them, and take all of that into consideration. So yeah, please don't make a decision on attending a school without understanding what the political situation is, what the kind of social situation is at the time in that particular country. Yeah. All right. And then lastly, these are some useful resources and sites. So I mentioned all of these. So again, that federal student aid site, Master's Portal, Euraxis is the doctoral site for Europe that has a lot of postings there. A Broad-Minded You is my website, and then I also have the Substack there, and then the Erasmus Mundus JMD catalog. So yeah, that's basically what I have. And I just want to finish this off by saying, I think that if you are interested in going back to school or pursuing a bachelor's, whatever the case may be, I really do think that it is imperative that you consider your options outside of the US. I'm not saying that you have to make that decision to like leave the US for school, but you at least need to consider it with just the continual rising cost of school in the US.
Mhm.
At this point, I would argue that it's like irresponsible not to consider school somewhere else, because you do have options. More and more countries are offering English taught programs. And yeah, like you can do this affordably. It definitely is possible. You do not have to be like swimming in debt in order to get a degree. But something that I didn't really touch on in the presentation is that like also the cost of living costs in the US are like outrageous, right? So not only get basically a free degree or very low cost degree, but it's also going to be less money to just like sustain yourself. So yeah, I really think that there's a lot of upside, and I hope that you all consider it.
Thank you. So listen, Briana, I have a bunch of questions, okay? But thank you very much for putting together such a thorough and thoughtful presentation. We appreciate that. Because girl, I am the queen of doing as little as possible. So first, congratulations to you. So in a couple of weeks or in 10 or 11
Yeah,
days,
10 days. Mm-hmm.
you defend your dissertation?
Yes.
Wonderful. Tell us about it. What is your dissertation on?
Ooh, okay. Well, my dissertation is on democratizing sport systems. So I was initially interested in looking at kind of stakeholder democracy in sport governance. So a lot of athletes in particular, but also other stakeholder groups have been critical of international bodies like the IOC or like WADA, which does like anti-doping, and just kind of how the system is not necessarily fair in the sense that athletes don't really get a say, or if we're talking about like how locations are selected for these sporting mega events, there seems to be like, some funny business, some corruption behind the scenes. And there's not a lot of, transparency, accountability. And these international sports bodies have committed to good governance principles, like democracy and transparency and accountability. So I was just kind of looking at, okay, if we are to imagine how this system can look, that's, more democratic, more equitable, more fair, it takes into consideration what these valued stakeholders, they should be valued stakeholders, have in mind. What do we need to do? What does that look like? What is that process like? And I kind of concluded that we have to kind of approach this from the top down. So yes, governance reform as far as how these decisions are made, but also from the bottom up. So what can we do to better prepare these athletes to participate in these sporting systems eventually? And really even beyond that, because so many young people do participate in sport all around the world, if this, were to turn out the way that I envision, they would also be more prepared to be civic citizens, it's better prepared to do their civic duty in their respective countries. So, yeah.
That's super interesting. We're going to get back on topic, but I want to ask you a question about the Olympics. Is there any chance the International Olympic Committee will be like, listen, we can't trust our athletes can come to and leave the United States without being detained, so we got to move this. We got to move this thing. LA is not possible. Is there any chance of that happening?
I don't think that there's any chance, but that has more to do with my lack of faith in the IOC. I think that you're right that they should be questioning it. I don't know if you heard, but a couple months ago, there was a bit of controversy because the US did not approve this. It was the Little League World Series and a team from Venezuela. So these little kids, they did not approve their visas until like just before they did end up being able to compete, but it was just like, oh, this is ridiculous. So if the IOC and all of these, because we're also supposed to have the World Cup next year. So the World Cup is supposed to be in the US, Canada, and Mexico in 2026, and then the LA Olympics in 2028. So, and yeah, there are, for instance, I think Iran has already qualified for the World Cup, their men's team. So yeah, I would hope that there aren't going to be any issues. But I don't know. I hope that they are trying to work that out in the background, FIFA and the IOC.
I feel like that is there's not a lot of protests that people, I don't know, I'm pessimistic. I don't know that there's a lot of protests that can happen in the United States, but I think the International Olympic Committee, that could be a form of protest that could bring about some improvement, at least some change, and even if it's just temporary improvement. I think the IOC, and now you're saying the World Cup, if they are like, get this together, or we're pulling out of here, I think that there's some power there. But you're right. I don't think anybody's gonna flex that power.
I mean, yeah, I have no idea. There aren't too many discussions about it happening right now from what I can tell. I hope that you're right though. I also
maybe by then California might be its own country. Maybe we don't need to worry, because by 2028 California will be its own country and we won't have to deal with this. Who knows?
It seems to me like a lot of these sporting bodies are just kind of, they're gonna cross their fingers and hope for the best is what they seem to be doing right now.
Yeah. So, okay, so once you graduate in a couple weeks, do you plan to stay in Prague?
I plan to stay in Prague for a little bit, but I am looking for like postdoc opportunities to try and continue my research. So I would like to do some type of experiment. So work with, like a youth club or a school or something, and just try and like implement some of these ideas. And yeah, just kind of see where that goes.
Best of luck on that. So
Thank
let's
you.
talk about your life in Prague Now, let's talk about your life as a doctoral student. Um, and how do you think it would compare if you were a doctoral student in the US right now?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk about stuff, including cost of living, including your experience with the people in academia. Black women in academia in the US are going through it. Okay. So how does it look for you? And how is it different? And how is it maybe the same?
I think overall it's probably less stress. I do think that some of this is kind of personality, right? Like, are you the type of person who really kind of wants like name brand institutions on your, on your resume type of deal? Even though this is a well regarded institution, they kind of fight with an institution in Belgium as far as like what's technically like the oldest university in Europe, but they both make the claim. But so this is, I mean, it's a well-regarded institution. It's a very old institution, which, in the West means that like it's well-regarded. um, yeah. But I think, yeah, like any time that you're trying to go to like an Ivy or like if you were at like Oxford or something, like it would probably be like hyper competitive or some, to that extent.
Yeah.
It would be more of that type of experience. And I don't really care for any of that. For me, I really wanted to be able to design my own program. So yeah, when I mentioned uh kind of being patient and waiting for the right opportunities, like this is kind of what I mean. So a lot of PhD opportunities are just kind of like a posting as far as like a professor is advertising because it's what they're interested in or it's what they have a grant to kind of pursue or something like that. So there are all of these stipulations that are just kind of out of your control, as opposed to I got to design my program. I got to design like my project, and yeah, I just had like flexibility. Not everyone, like I live in Prague, but not everyone who did like this PhD program. 4 of us started in my cohort, and one of them lives in Spain. So, there was that kind of flexibility and stuff. So yeah, I think that there's also more of a sense in the US of like you're having to do a lot of like TAing, so like being a teaching assistant and that type of stuff, like all of those kind of responsibilities. I didn't have that. But because like the cost of living is less and I still had my job, like it's fine, right? Like I didn't need to do all of that. But in the US, you're pretty much like expected to do a lot of those things. Like it's part of your job,
Yeah.
as a doctoral candidate. So
There's a lot of it's like indentured servitude kind of in the US. So you still have your job. What is your job?
So no, I don't have my job anymore. I yeah, left I think in July 2023. So I did both for like 3 years, which was plenty. That was plenty of me doing both of these. So yeah, so I've been like working on, building this platform and just like finishing up with my dissertation and everything. And again, like because the cost of living, my apartment, so I have a living room and a bedroom, a separate kitchen area. So I'm in my like living room right now, and the kitchen is on the other side of this door, right? And then the bedroom is next. Um, and I pay about $850. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, and I'm in a capital city. So
Beautiful city.
yes, yeah, it's a great city, and I have public transport. I think I pay my monthly pass. You can pay more, but I was just in the US for like a friend's wedding and stuff, like, and I kind of visited a few friends to like celebrate after I finished my dissertation. So I've just like been in Prague a little bit less. So I just have like a month pass right now, but it's about $20.
Okay.
Um, and that's, yeah. So I really like not having to drive, and yeah, having reliable public transport. So they have metro, tram, and bus here, and it's good for all of that. So yeah, I mean, and if you're like a traditional student, so most European countries have discounts up until the age of like 26. So if I was, under 26, and when I first started my program, I even got, half off of the pass. So yeah.
Half off the $20. Okay.
It's half off of like the yearly cost, so whatever the yearly cost is, but now I can't remember. But yeah. Mhm.
That's wonderful. Okay. And how do they treat you in your program?
Yeah, it's fine. Like I never spent like a ton of time on campus, but yeah, like my advisors, like I would just have um meetings at their flat. Like my advisors are like a married couple, so I would have like meetings at their flat, or yeah, if I am going into the office and stuff. So yeah, and we I've done like conference presentations and things like that. So, and then I met my supervisors like during my master's program. So I also, have gotten to know like the master students as they come through, and I've done like a bit of teaching. I didn't have to do like a ton of teaching, so I never had like a full semester load. But I would do like a few sessions here and there. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty chill, and I have I feel like my supervisors were the type that's like as much support as you needed, right? So I like met with them more frequently like earlier on, and but yeah, they whenever I'm like, yep, can we have a meeting, like they're always like, yep, sure, like this time or whatever, so.
Do you have peers in the US who are in doctoral or master's programs, or who have been in them at the same time as you?
um I know I've met people through like conferences, but none of my close friends did doctorate programs in the US. No.
Okay. Because you're talking really relaxedly about this, when I think this is the selling point. So the price is amazing, right? Getting out of the United States, yes, do it. Um, but I think what the thing that is the most surprising that I remember from our first conversation is how unstressed you were in this. I don't want to say unstressed because it's still a program and you're working hard, but how they're not trying to kill you in this program.
No,
And I
no.
think you don't, maybe because you haven't experienced that in the US. I've talked to enough women in academia in the US to know that it's hell
Okay.
for them.
Okay.
They are going, when I say they're going through it, I mean they're going through it. It's killing them. Meanwhile, you're like, yeah, I hang out with my advisors I go to their apartment. They don't make me do 10 times as much effort because I'm a Black woman. That was what I remember from talking with you before,
Mhm.
that you get treated with dignity. Am I putting words in your mouth? You feel like you're treated with dignity.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
And,
and this is the
and
thing, because like because my field is quite niche. Oftentimes, like if I'm at a conference, there are only, I feel like, because this is going to be like pretty much, most academic spaces, unless you are kind of a scholar of like, Africana studies or African American history or something like that, right? Like in most other spaces, there's only going to be a handful of us. But yeah, like there might still be like awkwardness, like they don't always be a little corny, right? But it's harmless for the most part, like um so yeah, that's mostly for me like been my experience. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. So yeah, it's, and there are a few. So as far as, because at this point, my master's program, I was the first cohort of my particular master's program, and I think now they're on like the eighth cohort or something. And because I've been living here, I do know a lot of the people, and yeah, like those of us who, again, there's not too many Black people who've gone through the program, but like a decent amount of us are in PhD programs and stuff, and yeah, like, we keep in contact with each other and lean on each other and stuff. But yeah, I don't know of anyone who's having like an awful experience. So, because I know people who are studying in Norway and Scotland. Like, yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so we talked a little bit about your cost of living. I wanted to let y'all know, if those of you who don't know, Prague is the most beautiful city I've never been to, I would say, right? The most beautiful city. We know it from Queen Latifah's The Last Holiday. That's it. It's beautiful. So we talked about your cost of living in Prague. Do you want to share? What is your residency status? If you don't want to answer that question, say I'll pass.
No, I mean, like, I'm a student. So if I wanted to stay here, like if I wanted to pursue permanent residency, so I'm coming up on 5 years, sometime this month probably. But yeah, so I have had student status as opposed to like being an employee. So yeah, it's definitely something that I wish that I would have like known to ask about, because I think most countries' doctoral candidates are considered like employees. But again, I didn't have as many. That's probably why I didn't have as many responsibilities, I guess. So, it does, I guess, that's the trade-off. But again, I think for me at my age at this point, the language would be very, very, very difficult. Wow. Like it's no joke. It's quite complex. And even they just have like a lot of little quirks. Like my name is Briana, but like if they're talking to me, it's Briano. If you're talking about me, it's Brianu. There's just a lot of you just got to remember a lot of rules and stuff. Like there's a lot going on. So I just don't think that, I think even if I were at 5 years, I think it would take me years to get where I need to get with the language.
And you need language competency for permanent residency or just for citizenship?
So you need it for permanent residency. It's probably country to country, but maybe you maybe need like one level higher or something for citizenship. So for permanent residency here, you only need A2. So for those of you who aren't familiar, so you have A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, and C2 is pretty much considered like fluent.
Okay.
Some countries you need like B1 in order to pass the permanent residency test. So it's just like a country to country basis. But yeah, I'm sure that there are language requirements for both, and for some countries they might be the same. For some countries the citizenship one might be like one level higher.
Yeah. Okay. If you don't know that you're going to stay there, I don't know if it's worth learning a language that's only spoken in one country. That's always my thought. Like, do I want to learn this language that I only speak here?
It's like, so this is a country of 10 million people. Technically, you could probably talk with like Slovakians because it used to be the Czechoslovakia. Okay. So it's not quite the same language, but close enough. But that's just like an additional like 5 or 7 million. So like it's still, we're talking state population, half the size of Florida. Like
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we've got a lot of good questions in the chat that I starred so that I wouldn't forget. Okay. Nichelle asked, do you know if any of these programs do online programs? So we're enrolled in this university in Europe, but we're online. Do they do that there?
I think that there are some online options. So not many though. But for instance, like I have seen on that like bachelor's portal, master's portal, that there are some online. So yeah, I think that there are some options.
Okay. All right, good. So Tori asked some questions about pre-med students and medical students, and you answered that nicely. You already answered that you would be, you said that it may not necessarily be a fit if you want to study medicine or if you want to practice law in the U.S. May not be a good fit to degree abroad, although you can just be a lawyer somewhere else. But right. But Eva Joyce was kind enough to say she works in medical credentialing and something. I don't understand this, but anybody who's interested.
That seems like there is a path, but yeah, I'm just saying, like, you definitely want to look that up before you make that decision. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. You don't want to box yourself out of the thing that you thought you were working towards.
Right.
Okay. All right. Dr. D. Bell paid $6,000 per year for her PhD program in England. Now, she said they put her through it, but $6,000 per year for the PhD program helped her avoid student loan debt. So more hands saying, yes, I did this too. Do you do you think you would have gotten your doctorate if you were in the U.S. if if it was going to cost you six figures? Do you think you would have done it?
Well, I would have I wouldn't have gotten a PhD if I didn't have funding. But even in the US, yeah, I don't necessarily think that it would have been for me, especially though it's also the cost of living stuff. Like I
Right.
remember what was that, like 2 years ago? Like they were on strike and stuff because the conditions are just so poor. I believe that was California, like maybe the California system schools, those because I think they do have like a union. I don't have a union here. So depending on who you are, that might also be something that you want to look up. But yeah, like they were on strike because like the conditions were so poor and stuff. So yeah, I mean, because I wasn't when the opportunity arose for this program, I was not necessarily like looking for a PhD program, but because we had a relationship with these advisors, basically like everyone in my program got got notified that they had funding for PhD students, and I was like, okay, like so I just kind of went with it after the opportunity arose. But yeah, I would just say, like, if you are interested in a doctoral program, like I would say, kind of take your time and because I think it's risky, right? If you don't know someone, if you're kind of going into a situation where you don't know who the professor is or like how they work. So I would just kind of say like, kind of take your time and try to kind of understand as best you can what the situation is going to be like, what the conditions are going to be like. So if that means maybe like, reaching out to some people who've previously done the program and just kind of being like, yeah, like I just want to, kind of hear about your experience type of thing. Like, yeah, why not?
Okay. Good. Okay. Good. Good. I wanted to talk to you about this because I know that back to school season is a time when I naturally start thinking about, well, what do I want to do? And I know that a lot of Black women or a lot of people don't know how affordable, how accessible, how maybe even better a program would be abroad. But I also want to talk for a second about Exodus Summit 2025 because some of us, one of the sessions that we're hosting in the summit this year is simple certifications that get you better work. We have a speaker, Coach Yvette Jets, coming in to talk about some certifications. So it may not be, your like back to school, your thing may not be a university program, maybe a certification or two that you add into your toolkit that make you, that help you get better work, better pay, for a better employer without without them trying to kill you. So
Yeah.
get your register friends for Exodus Summit 2025 at exodussummit.com. If you're looking for a way to make more move abroad money, our theme for Exodus Summit 2025 is more move abroad money. If this conversation has you thinking about other ways that you can do things a different way, then maybe Exodus Summit 2025 is a good place for you. We often get used to things like we expect things to be a certain way. We expect to graduate from high school, go to college in the United States, go to graduate school in the United States, buy a home in the United States. But once you pull out one of those dominoes, once you pull one thing out of the line, you are on a whole new path, right? You're that whole little set of dominoes is not gonna, it doesn't have to fall for you. You don't have to fall in line, right? You don't have to fall in line. Pull out a domino and see which other directions you can take. So if moving abroad through school sounds interesting, I'm going to link to Briana's resources. If moving abroad through another path sounds interesting, come to Exodus Summit. Okay. So tell us what, tell us what. So I dropped the link to a broad-minded you, a broad-mind edu. Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, I wanted it to like work
I'm
a
looking
few
at it like
different
a broad-minded you and a broad-mind edu. And I like
ways.
that. Okay. So tell us what we're doing at a broad-mind edu and a broad-minded you.
So I have links there so you can be redirected to the Substack. So, if I'm just like feeling inspired or like I have like some news postings. I have, some list of things that I think are kind of relevant. So there's the like Substack newsletter. I also have some data stuff. I'm just like, in my previous job, I did like, I was on like a data research team. So I have some data visualization stuff there as well. So that's also about, education in the US as well as education abroad. Because I also have there I think it can be easier for people to kind of see visually, like, or just be able to like quickly put these things like side by side as far as like, oh, how much would it be if I were to do like community college or, states, go to school in state or whatever. Cause that's the thing, like now, even in state, like cause you're from the Northeast, right? Those in-state costs are expensive in the Northeast. Like, so, yeah, just being able to like see those things side by side, I think are helpful. And then
Yeah.
also,
Yeah. I haven't looked at tuition prices in forever, but I know it would be shocking to me.
yeah, I think
I
like,
know.
like Rhode Island is, I think it's like $17,000 or something in state. That's a lot. That's a lot. So yeah, and for anyone who wants to who feels like they need a little bit more assistance, you can, book a call with me. That's also an option. Because I do want people to know that it is possible. I don't want it to feel out of reach for anyone. I know that we like people have responsibilities and things like that. I also want people to know the quality of like primary education in the US is also, not at, this kind of idea that everything's the best.
No.
Just looking into it, even if you have kids and you feel like you don't necessarily, it might be something that you want, but it's not the best for them. Maybe it would be better for them. I think that you should at least give it a chance, look into it.
I agree. I agree. Not only are you getting a good quality product, right? The education, a good quality product, but you get to be in a place where you're going to be treated better, and it's going to cost you less. Like, what is the downside? Can we talk for a second of, speaking of the U.S. is not the best? Can we talk about healthcare in Prague? So,
Yeah.
as a student, have you had access to healthcare in the Czech Republic?
Mm-hmm. So the way that they do it here is that I have to buy up front, but that's like, I think it's like $400 for the year. um,
Insurance?
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So it's not, it's not free, but it's certainly not the US. So yeah. And I have and that's for me going to like, and okay, let me say, and it might be a little bit more than 400 because I pay for not the cheapest insurance, right? So I have like good insurance and I go to my bougie clinic where they speak English. Like I'm not, and this is, again, it is Prague. So it's the capital city. So a lot of, doctors period are going to speak like pretty good English. But for me, I need you to be very, very comfortable with English. For my medical professional, I need you to be very, very, we need to, communicate easily. So I go to my like bougie clinic with my insurance, and this is not like I'm paying up front and I gotta take a picture and mail this in and all this. Like, no, they take care of it with the insurance.
Okay. Covered. It's covered.
Yeah.
Your visits are covered. Your prescriptions are covered.
Yeah. Yeah, if there's something that like, because for instance, I think that like, uh, for instance, like my ADHD medication was not covered, but like the stuff that's like necessary would be like, yeah, that's,
Do you know the price for that medication in the US versus what you pay in Prague? Have you ever looked that up?
mm, it's not the same though, because for instance, like in the US, I was getting like Adderall. Here you can't get Adderall. I've never gotten because like I've never gotten Ritalin in the US, so I'm not quite sure. But it's affordable. It's definitely not, there's nothing that's, breaking the bank, you know? Um, the exception would be like those like weight loss medications. Like those are still expensive here. Like those are still expensive here, but like the other stuff, it's fine. And
Good.
actually, now that I think about it, I don't know. Maybe if I've just never asked my insurance about that ADHD medication, but maybe if I did, it would be covered. I don't know.
Who knows? You were like, I'll just pay for
Yeah.
it. Amar wants to know is it odd to be a non-traditional student, to be a student, like over 35 in Europe? Is that a strange thing?
No, it's not strange. It's much more common than it is in the US. When I did my master's, I was the youngest in the program, and there were, I think, maybe 3 of us who had come right out of, like, our bachelor's. Some people had like like a few years work experience, but there were people who, were in their 30s. We had, a guy who, he was this for him, he was a lawyer. So he was in his 50s and he had like retired from law and he was like coming back to, like learn something else. Like, so yeah, I think that especially because I think it's less common in the US, more so because lifestyle creep, right? Like it's kind of hard to step away
That's right.
once you've
That's right.
kind of once you kind of gotten into your life, right? And you are used to like having things and all of that. But if you're not necessarily if the cost of living is manageable and Europeans don't have debt like Americans do. So I think it's not necessarily that um it's like, not tolerated in the US, but I think it's just like more unusual because of all of those other factors. Whereas if you don't have those things, I think people just have like a bit more freedom to make those kinds of decisions.
That's right. Yeah. So if you are a country that already gives its people access to health or a region of the world, right? Europe, a lot of these people have access to some form of like universal health care or universal insurance. They have education and healthcare are not profit generators,
Mhm.
right? Education and healthcare are not profit generators. That gives the people a whole lot more freedom to try some stuff, right? Let me try. Let me go to school and become a florist. When I traveled for a year on around, one of the women in the hostel had just finished her degree in the UK in whatever florist study. I did, which
Hmm.
was really awesome because she was not the youngest person. I'm like, well, that's really awesome. That she was like, you know what, I want to become a florist now, and I'm going to go study at this school and whatever, whatever. They have more freedom to do those kinds of things because of the structure of those countries, because of
Yeah.
the social structure. And so, yeah, I don't think it's that uncommon. One thing, so the gap year, absolutely normal in Europe, right?
Mhm.
Taking a year off from work and just traveling around and doing stuff, absolutely normal. So if a gap year is normal there at any age, then I would imagine going to school is normal at any age too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, okay, good. Is there anything that you feel like we didn't cover? We talked a little bit about the pricing, right? You mentioned the $3,500 per year master's degree. So and even, yeah, we talked a little bit about pricing. We talked about countries that can help, that with being a student there can help you become a resident there or
Mm-hmm.
permanent resident there. Um,
Yeah.
and
And as far as the pricing goes, I just want to, yeah, I want to be clear that it really is a range. There are some programs that are free or, you're just paying like fees, right? Now, it might not
Mhm.
be what you're necessarily like interested in. I find my theory, I've never found anything that necessarily like officially supports that, but I think a lot of the programs that I see that are like free or close to free have to do with like I think the country has like a particular interest in it. So it's like environmental related or something like that, something that would be like that benefits the, kind of the society for them to have the cost like very low or something like that. So I think you're more
Mhm.
likely to, I do find that you're more likely to find like a, quite cheap, like, environmental or nature related program or something as opposed to like fashion design or something like that. Um,
Okay.
yeah. Though to be fair, like, if you are interested in like fashion design or something, you could probably like find a program in France or Italy that's like, cheaper than something in the US and be doing it arguably in like the actual like fashion capitals of the world, minus New York. But yeah, so um there really is like something out there, I think, if you're interested in it. And I think you
Tamara
would be
says, yeah, she wants a master's in soil science.
okay. Yeah.
So if somebody who's listening today and who's like, oh, I hadn't thought about going abroad. So especially, let's talk about a master's or doctorate. Step one is to look around for programs in the thing that you want to study, or would step one is the program, or step one would be the finding a professor who is like interested in that thing and then seeing if we can make a program.
I think it's, 1A, 1B, like there it's because I would say like, take a look on the Euraxis site if you're interested in Europe, right? There are you can especially like at the doctoral level, really anywhere because there's less likelihood of you having to take a lot of coursework. At least that is more common in North America. So like Canada and the US, you're probably having to do like 2 years of coursework before you even choose a topic for your dissertation. That's not how it is in Europe. um so yeah, the setup is a bit different, right? But so on that Euraxis site, there will be some postings there of like advertised PhD programs. In addition to like, they also have like postdocs and research positions and things like that on that site. But you can filter out for the PhD positions, right? But they'll just be more restrictive because someone's kind of asking you to study this thing, as opposed to if you already have scholars in mind that you respect, or if you were to go onto Google Scholar and you see that someone is like writing about your interests, you can reach out to them, and just kind of inquire about whether or not they have grant funding, if they're taking PhD students, whatever the case may be. Because there are ways, the doctoral programs are flexible. Like, again, it just kind of depends on what you're doing. It's also possible that you could get like funding from industry. So if you were interested in like car something or other, and like BMW, you went to BMW and were like, do you want to fund this? And like, you'll be like, cited and thanked, and I can, whatever I come up with, you all get first dibs or whatever as far as buying it. Like that is an option as well. Obviously, none of that's guaranteed to work out, but you can also get funded that way.
Did your funding come from industry?
No. So my professors got funding. This university wanted to like expand its English publication footprint. So part of our deal was that like we got funding, but we had to have, in order to like complete the PhD, we had to have 3 published articles, which I think is like more than average. But that's why our professors got that funding, is because they wanted more articles from this, like more peer-reviewed research from this university in English.
Okay. So your funding came from the school itself. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I would like to tell you this. I think that you should put these resources, even it could just be the PDF that you've already prepared, put it behind a wall so that people have to give you their email address to get it.
Okay.
Okay, because your email, being able to have the email addresses of people who are interested in this thing is the beginning of money. It's the first step to money in the bank. Okay, so I know it's not done today because I didn't tell you this until just now while we're live, but I think if you create a thing, let's see, do you know how to do a pop up on your website? Did you do your website yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know how to put a pop up on the website, like a little box that says what's your email address, and then I'll send you these resources?
I think I could probably figure it out. Like, nah.
In the future, friends, there may be such a link as abroadmindedyou.com/resources or toolkit or something. Okay. So what I would say is the resources that were mentioned today, if you would like to get them in one thing, go to Briana's site in a few days. Okay. If you're watching in the future, hello, friends in the future, it probably already exists. But if you're here today, September 6th, September 7th, September 8th, give her a few minutes to put these resources together in a PDF, which they're already in a PDF, but give her a second to put them somewhere so that you can give her your email address and she can give you these resources, right? So she just said she would start at Erasmus if you wanted to look for programs in Europe. Get this information from her, but give her a few days. Okay, give her a few days. And then in the description of this video, you can put on your calendar to come back to this video in a few days. In the description, there will be a link somewhere for you to give her your email address and to get the resources that she's compiled for you. Okay, thank you. Thank you. That way, listen, when you have spaces for, like, when you have some coaching availability, you can email people and be like, hey, y'all want to talk? Here's my link. It's really important to gather people's email addresses. Thank you.
Okay.
It's very important. So yes, you have homework to do. Now, you know what? It may not be. I forgot. Briana's super busy right now. There's dissertation things and defense is happening. Give her some time. I don't mean, so I said this week, give her some time. Okay. But mostly for those of you in the future, come back to look in the description to see if there's a place there for you to get this resource from Briana, so that you don't have to, start trying to compile things and you don't know if you can trust the resource. Don't know if you can trust the source. Okay. I forgot. This is a super busy time for you right now. Super busy. How are we celebrating? So you said that you went to the US to celebrate your completion of the dissertation, but now.
I went to the US to like visit a few friends. A good friend of mine got married and stuff. But like, yeah, like I would say the summer was like a celebration time. I went to like Spain and Norway and saw some friends and stuff. So yeah. But it did feel like, not quite finished yet. So I can't, yeah, I'm very excited for week after next or whatever it is.
Yes. Okay. I hope you do something amazing to reward yourself. And then I hope you take some time off. Okay. I hope you give yourself a sabbatical, some time when you can just be like, not an academic sabbatical, just a break. A
Mm.
nice break where you could be like, look what I did. Congratulations to you. We're very excited for you. So 5 years, a lot has happened in that amount of time. I'm so glad that, that this experience has still been good to you, that Europe, that school, that
Yeah,
all of these
yeah.
things have still,
And
have
I
still
mean,
been good.
don't get me wrong, writing the actual dissertation, like that was a hard 6 months. The last 6 months, like leading up to submission, hard, hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. We, excuse me, that's why. Take
Yeah.
a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need to
So
do.
I've
Yeah.
definitely been resting after June, after that submission date. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to officially like closing this chapter.
Good. What's your like treat yourself normal, what's your normal treat yourself like reward that you give yourself?
Ooh. Um I mean, I don't know, like a normal treat myself. Look, I always treat myself well, Stephanie. Like, I don't know. That's a common thing for me. Like, um, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'll have to definitely like reflect on how exactly I want to celebrate it, but it definitely does feel, um, yeah, it's special. So I am trying to like sit in it. It felt weird after the submission. It was because it's one of those things where it's like you could keep tinkering with it, and you just kind of have to step away. So I've come back
Mhm.
to it recently and I'm like, I was looking at it and I'm like, no, I'm proud of the work I've done. So I do need to like sit with that more. Like, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We take so much of the things that we do. It's really easy to take it for granted. So I
Yeah.
hope you don't
Yeah.
sit back and be like, I did, right? And give yourself a whole lot of time to do more of the things that I don't know. Maybe during these last 5 years, there's been some things that you were like, oh, I can't do this. I got school. I can't do this. I got to put my head down and focus. I
Hmm.
hope you get some time to be irresponsible, as my friend Jules says, sometimes to be irresponsible and have a grand old time and kick up your heels before you keep moving into the postdoc. When you said postdoc, I was like, here we go. Postdoctoral opportunity. Oh, here we go, girl. I don't even know you, Briana, but I know you need a break. So I hope you take a nice break. Okay.
I
All
will.
right.
I will.
Good, good. And we're very proud of you. We really appreciate you coming in and sharing, and we're very proud of you for doing this amazing work. So thank you very much for that. And thank you for um, opening up this platform or place for other people, for other Black women to learn, to be able to and get out of the United States and do a thing that they want to do, get the degree, do the research, do the studying, but in a hopefully, much better environment, better situation. Thank you very much for doing this and for sharing this and for spreading the word. Thank you
Thank you for
very much.
having
Our pleasure, my pleasure.
me.
Okay, guys, I think that's it. I think we did it. I've linked to a handful of resources in the description of the video, but later one day, okay, I'll email y'all a different link. Be patient, but one day I'll email you a different link uh, so that you can give Brianna your email address so that she can stay in contact with you. Okay. And Exodus Summit 2025 tickets are on sale. Early bird price is still in effect. Early bird pricing ends on September 15th. Exodus Summit 2025 theme is More Move Abroad Money. If you need money to move abroad, you should be at Exodus Summit 2025. We've listed a few speakers on the site so far, but we have some more sessions to announce by next Friday. Early bird pricing is until the 19th. So before early bird pricing ends, you'll know more of the speakers and sessions that are happening. Okay, but if you're interested in moving abroad and you want money, we're bringing in Black women speakers to teach you how to make money doing their thing, right? Not just, oh, you should be a freelance writer, it's great, but here's how you get started with freelance writing right? Here's how you position yourself. Here's how you make your first dollars. Not, oh, these are some certifications that'll help you. Not you should get more certifications, it'll help you. But here are some specific certifications that are short and sweet and power packed and get you the end result, the end job that you want, or the end consulting role that you want, right? Not, oh, you should sell premium courses, but here's how I took what I knew and I packaged it into a course and I sell it on the internet. Here's how you get your sales. This summit is about Black women teaching, showing Black women a different way. Traditional jobs in the United States are not, I don't think, the pathway to our liberation. I don't think a traditional 9 to 5 job is the pathway to Black women not even being treated with decency, let alone liberation. I think that we need to take our money into our own hands. Terry Ijeoma is teaching trading. I think we need to take our money into our own hands. And so Exodus Summit 2025 is on that. Okay, that's what we on. ExodusSummit.com is where you get your ticket. Okay, thank you, Briana. Okay, thank you all. I hope you'll have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy, Briana, and let us know. Email me. Let's do some celebrating. As I recall, you're not really on Instagram, right, or
No.
anything. Well, somewhere. Can you post on LinkedIn or something, girl, and let us know how things go?
I'll keep you updated personally, Stephanie.
Okay, thank you. Thank you kindly. All right, thank you all. Thank you, friends. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye. Okay.